Old Book Prophecy, Part 1, A Shadow Prophet I Original Story, Prologue, The Whisper in Ashes. They say a prophecy is not written, it chooses who will discover it. But no one ever explains what happens when the prophecy is alive, and older than time itself. The night it all began, London was colder than winter had the right to be. The fog crawled across the streets like a living thing, slithering around the old cathedral walls, whispering in a language no man had spoken for 1,000 years. Inside a small antique bookstore on Fleet Street, a single candle flickered violently, as if resisting an invisible breath that tried to put it out. The owner, Edwin Marlowe, an elderly historian with trembling hands, stood behind the counter, staring at the book he should have never taken out of its sealed chest. A book wrapped in aged leather. A book that shook slightly, as though something inside wanted to escape. A book that was older than the church above it. The cover bore no title, only a carved circular symbol, 2 concentric rings of runes around an ancient eye. Edwin whispered the words he had sworn never to speak. The Book of the Forgotten Dawn. The candle suddenly extinguished, but the room did not go dark. The book began to glow softly from within, leaking thin golden light at the edges, like sunlight bleeding through cracks in a coffin. And then came the whisper, a low, ancient voice speaking from inside the pages. "It is awake." Edwin staggered back, knocking over a stack of dusty atlases. The whisper continued, "And so, are they?" Edwin felt his pulse thunder in his ears. He grabbed the book and shoved it into the chest it came from, a chest lined with protective sigils, but the lid slammed shut on its own, locking itself. He gasped. Someone, or something, did not want him to close it. Then the bells of St. Cuthbert's Cathedral began to ring, not the gentle toll of midnight, but the violent, panicked alarm bells. Something was happening outside, something ancient, something returning. Edwin grabbed his coat and stepped outside, and what he saw made him drop to his knees. Above London, the sky had split. A thin, circular tear, like an eye-opening, glowed with golden fire, illuminating the clouds with spiraling symbols identical to the ones on the book. Lightning crackled in perfect geometric lines. The prophecy was awakening, and he knew exactly what it meant. The sealed one has felt the first disturbance. Chapter 1. The Student Who Shouldn't Have Survived. Ellie Hayes had never believed in destiny. She believed in trains running late, in coffee being too expensive, in exams being unfair, but not in fate. Definitely not in ancient prophecies. Which is why she had no idea that the most important prophecy in human history was already chasing her. She was running down the steps of King's College Library, clutching a stack of borrowed books, including one she didn't remember checking out. That alone should have been a warning. But Ellie was too busy muttering, "I swear if I fail this paper, I'm becoming a barista." Rain hammered against the concrete courtyard. Students rushed past with umbrellas, laughing and shouting. Nothing felt unusual until Ellie's phone buzzed. "Unknown number. Do not open the book." She frowned. What book? Her eyes fell to the strange one tucked between her textbooks. It was wrapped in cracked brown leather, no title, no barcode, and very, very old. She hadn't taken this, she was sure. Her phone buzzed again. "Unknown number. They're already following you." Ellie stopped walking. "What the hell?" She turned around. 3 men in dark coats stood motionless under the archway. Not students, not teachers. Their faces were pale, their eyes unnaturally dark. One of them tilted his head, like he could smell her. Ellie felt her stomach drop. Without thinking, she ran. She didn't know why, didn't know who they were, didn't know why she suddenly felt like prey. But she knew one thing. Every instinct screamed the same warning. Don't let them touch you. She sprinted through the courtyard, across the wet pavement, nearly slipping. Footsteps thundered behind her. She turned, panicked. The men were no longer walking. They were gliding. Fast. Too fast to be human. "No, no, no," Ellie gasped. She darted into the library basement entrance, slammed the door, and locked it. Her heart hammered. Her hands shook. And then she looked down at the book. The old leather cover was glowing faintly gold, just like the sky Edwin Marlowe had seen, just like the hour of prophecy. Ellie whispered, "What are you?" The book whispered back. The whisper of the book. First activation. The gold glow brightened. The runes on the cover rearranged themselves, and a single word formed, "Chosen." Ellie stumbled back. Nope, no, absolutely not. But the book opened on its own with a violent snap. Pages flipped wildly, stopping on an illustration of her. Same hair, same jacket, same necklace. Drawn in ancient ink hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago. And beneath the illustration, a chilling inscription. She who carries the heart of the forgotten one. Ellie froze. What does that even mean? But the book wasn't finished. Golden letters appeared and rearranged themselves into a prophecy. When the sky burns with the dawn of the lost, and the sealed eye opens once more, the bearer shall awaken the one who was never meant to remember. The basement light flickered. The door behind her rattled violently. The men were outside, trying to get in. The book snapped shut with a force that nearly broke her fingers. And then, silent, too silent. Then a new message formed on the cover. Run. Chapter 2. The door that shouldn't have opened. The basement door shook again, this time hard enough to crack the old wooden frame. Ellie stumbled backward, clutching the ancient book to her chest. The three men outside didn't speak, didn't shout, didn't demand. They simply kept pushing, quiet, unnatural. The door splintered. Ellie whispered desperately, please stop, please. The book pulsed, once, twice. Then the door exploded inward with a deafening crack. Shards flew, dust clouds burst, and the three men stepped inside. But they weren't men. Up close, their faces looked wrong, too smooth, too pale, their eyes like ink poured into empty sockets. The tallest one tilted his head again, that same predatory, animalistic motion. He spoke, but his lips barely moved. The book. Ellie froze. Her voice cracked. I don't want it. The creature took one step toward her. The lights died. Darkness swallowed the room. Ellie screamed, but the scream didn't leave her mouth. A hand, not human, clamped around her throat. She felt its fingers sinking deeper than skin should allow. Her vision blurred. Her heartbeat slowed. Her consciousness slipped until the book in her hands burned hot like fire. A golden flash erupted, and all three creatures flew backward as if struck by invisible force. They hit the far wall and collapsed like marionettes with cut strings. Ellie fell to her knees, gasping for air. The book whispered, chosen, not prey. Chapter 3. Edwin's Warning. When Ellie stumbled out of the basement and into the storm had worsened, clouds churned overhead, glowing faint gold from within. London had never seen a storm like this. She staggered toward the bus stop, confused and shaking, when a hand grabbed her wrist. She yelped and spun around. An elderly man with a gray beard and frantic eyes stared at her. Edwin Marlowe. You have it, he gasped. Dear God, you actually have it. I don't know what's happening, Ellie stammered. People are chasing me. That thing opened. It showed my face. Edwin held up a trembling finger. Listen carefully. There is no time. He looked at the sky nervously, as if expecting something to descend at any moment. What you carry is not a book. It's a seal, a key, and a curse. Ellie swallowed. A curse? Yes, a prophecy long forbidden. Thunder cracked overhead, a perfect circular bolt of light. Edwin stared upward in terror. This is the second sign, he whispered. The first sign awakened the book. The second means they have found the bearer. Ellie, bearer of what? Edwin leaned close. Of the heart of the forgotten one. I don't know what that means. Edwin sighed. Broken, weary. It means you were chosen before you were even born. It means your life was never your own. The book in her hands pulsed again. Edwin flinched. You must listen to me, child. The forgotten one was sealed away in a time before history, before memory, before human language even existed. Ellie felt her skin crawl. Edwin continued. It seeks one thing, to remember itself. Why me? Ellie whispered. Edwin shook his head. I don't know. No prophet ever lived long enough to learn. The moment they realized the truth, they vanished. Ellie's voice trembled. So I'm going to die? Not if we move. Now. Edwin grabbed her arm. They'll track the book by its pulse. We must. His voice cut off. He froze. A cold breeze passed between them. Ellie turned slowly. The three pale creatures were standing across the street, but now there were 7, and behind them, something huge stirred in the fog. Not human, not alive, not dead. Its silhouette was wrong. Too tall, too thin, too many joints, like a shadow wearing the shape of a man who died centuries ago. Edwin whispered, They sent a Vesperborn. Run, don't look at its face. The shadow creature stepped forward. Ellie made the mistake of looking. Just a glance. Her knees buckled. Her breath vanished. Her throat tightened as if invisible fingers crushed it. Edwin grabbed her chin and forced her head down. "Don't look," he hissed. Behind them, the creature's voice rippled through the air, not spoken, not heard, but felt. "Arituern, T. Sigil." Ellie trembled. The book in her hands glowed violently. The Vesperborn flinched back. Just a fraction, just enough. Edwin pulled Ellie toward a narrow alley. "We cannot fight that thing," he said, voice shaking, "but we can outrun it." Chapter 4. The Prophecy's Third Sign. The alley twisted sharply, leading them under rusted fire escapes and dripping pipes. Ellie gasped for breath. "Where are we going?" "To the only place the prophecy cannot see you." "What does that even mean?" Edwin replied. "Prophecies are not predictions. They are paths, and paths can be stepped off if you know where the cracks are." The book pulsed again, stronger. A golden glow leaked from the seams of its cover. Edwin stumbled. "No, not now." "What? What's happening?" Edwin's eyes widened in horror. "The third sign. The what?" He pointed up. Ellie looked. The sky above the alley was tearing. Not like a storm, not like lightning, but like pages being ripped from a book. Golden veins spread outward, symbols spiraling like constellations of ink. Edwin whispered, "Once the third sign appears, the prophecy begins writing the next hour of your life." "What does that mean?" Chapter 5. Where the Lost Are Kept. Ellie fell through darkness. Not the kind of darkness that comes from closed eyes, but the kind that feels alive, like a mouth swallowing her whole. She tried to scream, but no sound, no breath, no thought came out. Her body felt weightless, suspended in an endless void. The book clung to her hands like it was fused to her skin. Black mist coiled around her like smoke rising through water. Voices whispered from within it, layered, overlapping, ancient. One voice was deeper than the others. A low, inhuman rumble. "You were not meant to arrive conscious." Ellie twisted, trying to see where the voice came from, but there was no up or down, no left or right, only void. Another voice, cold and female, slithered across her ears. "She carries the heart, bound before birth. The prophecy chose her, though the body is weak." Ellie's pulse thundered. She finally forced air into her lungs and screamed, "Where am I?" The mist vibrated with wicked amusement. The deep voice said, "In the place between pages." A second shock rippled through her body, like falling into a freezing river, the place where forgotten things wait to be remembered. Suddenly the void tore apart, and Ellie fell out of nothing into a world that shouldn't exist, a city with no sky. She hit Coldstone hard enough to knock the wind out of her. Groaning, she pushed herself up. She was in a street, but not a normal one. Tall buildings twisted impossibly upward, made of dark stone etched with runes that glowed faint gold. There were no windows, no doors, no lights, just symbols, thousands of shifting symbols, moving across the walls like insects. Above her, there was no sky. Only swirling golden script spiraling through blackness, like someone had torn reality open and let the writing of the universe bleed through. It felt like a city trapped inside a book. Ellie whispered, "What is this place?" The book in her hands pulsed once. Golden letters carved themselves onto the cover, the archive of the unmade. A second pulse. "You were expected." Ellie froze. "Expected by who?" A voice behind her answered, "By me." Ellie spun around. A figure stood at the end of the street, covered in a long black cloak, face hidden beneath a hood, hands thin and pale, fingers longer than normal, too long. As the figure stepped forward, the runes on the buildings brightened in response. The figure bowed its head slightly. "Welcome, bearer." Ellie backed away. Who are you?" The figure tilted its head. "One of the librarians." Ellie blinked. "The what?" The figure stepped closer. Ellie noticed something horrifying. Its shadow on the ground didn't match its body. The shadow was taller, broken, wrong. "We keep what should never exist. We guard what the world forgets, and we serve he who is locked." Ellie clutched the book, the forgotten one. The hooded figure stopped moving. The runes on the walls dimmed. The air thickened, and then it spoke in a voice that didn't belong inside a human throat. "Do not speak its name." Ellie trembled. The librarian raised a hand, long fingers twitching. "Come, you must be prepared." "Prepared for what?" Ellie demanded. The librarian turned its hooded head toward her. Even though she couldn't see inside, she felt eyes, thousands of them, fixing on her. "For the moment it remembers." Ellie shook her head. "This is insane. I'm not part of this. I didn't choose this." The librarian's hood leaned forward, inches from her face. Prophecy chooses no one, it consumes. Chapter 6. Edwin follows the signs. Meanwhile, in the real world, Edwin sprinted through the rain-soaked streets of London, desperate, soaked, breathless. He clutched a silver talisman in his palm, one of the few things on earth older than the prophecy itself. He whispered a mantra through clenched teeth, "Guide me. Show me the thread she left behind." The talisman glowed faintly, and then a thin line of golden light appeared on the ground before him. A trail, left by Ellie when the prophecy pulled her away. Edwin muttered, "Thank the old gods." Lightning cracked across the sky, pure gold. Edwin shielded his eyes. The fourth sign. He swallowed. He had minutes, maybe less, before the prophecy sealed her path completely. He followed the golden trail into a narrow alley, and then he saw it. A tear in the air, thin as a paper cut, glowing with the same golden light as the book. He had seen such things once before. When he was young, reckless, and foolish, it was a doorway, but not one humans were meant to walk through. Edwin pressed his hand against the tear. Pain shot through him like molten metal. His body shook violently, but he pushed harder. The tear widened. Golden mist poured out. Edwin whispered, "I'm coming, child. Don't you dare die before I reach you." He stepped into the tear, and the world folded inward. Chapter 7. Chapter 7. The librarian's temple, Ellie, was dragged by the librarian through twisting corridors of impossible architecture, hallways bending at wrong angles, rooms with ceilings below floors, staircases that looped infinitely. They entered a large chamber filled with towering obelisks covered in moving script. The librarian gestured. "The preparation begins now." "I don't want any preparation," Ellie snapped. "I want to go home." The librarian's hood tilted. "Home is gone." Ellie's blood froze. What do you mean?" The librarian raised a hand. Golden mist coiled in the air, forming an image, London, but burning with golden fire. Buildings crumbled, the sky split. The cathedral bells twisted into shrieks. Ellie stumbled backward. No, that's not real. That's just some vision or illusion," the librarian whispered. "It is a possibility. If the heart awakens incorrectly," Ellie glared. "And how do I make sure it doesn't?" The librarian's head lowered. "You don't. The heart chooses how it remembers." Ellie felt dizzy. "So you brought me here to die?" The librarian paused, then softly, "To survive." It extended a long finger toward the book in Ellie's hands. "Open it." Ellie hesitated. The book vibrated, wanting to open. The air around her thickened. The walls dimmed. The obelisks flickered like dying stars. Ellie whispered, "If I open this, what happens?" The librarian replied, "The truth comes out." Ellie's voice trembled. "And if I don't?" The librarian tilted its head. "Then the prophecy will open you." Chapter 8. The Heart Awakens. First Pulse. Ellie swallowed the rising fear. She opened the book. The pages didn't flip. They rippled, like something beneath the paper was breathing. Golden ink seeped upward, forming a sigil, a circular one. It pulsed once, twice. A third pulse shook the chamber. The librarian stepped back. "It begins." The sigil expanded, a perfect ring of burning gold, and then split open like an eye. A deep, echoing heartbeat filled the hollow chamber. Boom, boom. Ellie clutched her chest, her own heartbeat syncing with it. The sigil formed words. Chapter 1. The Memory That Was Removed. The chamber shook. Obelisks cracked. Runes spiraled along the floor. Ellie screamed as golden chains shot out from the pages, wrapping around her wrists, her chest, her throat. The librarian bowed its head. "The heart accepts you." Ellie was lifted off the ground. The chamber dissolved into gold light. She felt something vast, impossibly ancient, looking at her through the sigil. Then a voice far older than humanity whispered, "I are Memem. Ellie screamed, and the world went black. "It means this is the last moment you have control." The world shook. Windows shattered. A deep, vibrating hum filled the alley, as if reality itself were a harp string being plucked. Ellie clutched her head, screaming. The book burst open. Pages flipped. Ink poured off the paper and swirled around her in golden smoke. Words formed in the air. "The bearer shall be taken." "No!" Ellie cried. "Taken where?" The smoke coiled around her legs. Edwin tried to pull her away, but something unseen yanked her backward. Her screams echoed. Edwin shouted her name. Then everything went white, a blinding, burning white, and Ellie Hayes vanished. Chapter 9. The Chamber of Lost Names. Ellie didn't wake up all at once. Instead, consciousness returned in waves, each one colder, heavier, darker. She was lying on something smooth and warm, like stone that had been alive once. Her eyes fluttered open. She expected the archive's twisting corridors or the librarian's hollow stare. Instead, she saw nothing. Not darkness, not emptiness, just a vast, endless black ocean of mist, stretching infinitely in every direction. She rose slowly, legs trembling, breath shallow. Above her, floating in the void like golden constellations, were names. Thousands of names, millions, each glowing softly like a star, some bright, some fading, some barely visible, flickering like dying candle flames. Ellie whispered, "What is this place?" A voice behind her answered, "The Chamber of Lost Names." Ellie turned. The librarian stood there, but something about it was different. Its cloak fluttered as if underwater. Its shadow no longer touched the floor. Its hood was deeper, darker, as if it led into another world entirely. It raised a thin, pale hand and gestured at the floating names. "Here lie the names removed from the world. The forgotten, the erased, the ones the prophecy devoured," Ellie swallowed. "Why show me this?" The librarian's hood tilted slightly. "Because one of those names was yours." Ellie froze. What do you mean? My name is Ellie." The librarian shook its head slowly. "Ellie Hayes is the name given to the shell, but the prophecy removed the name you were born with." Ellie felt the air vanish from her lungs. My real name? Why?" The librarian stepped closer. "Because the prophecy feared it." Lightning cracked silently across the name-filled sky. Ellie's heart pounded. "What was my name?" The librarian lifted a hand toward the swirling void. The names above her began to swirl, slow at first, then faster, accelerating into a vortex of golden light. Ellie shielded her eyes. A single name descended from the storm, old, ancient, written in a language she didn't recognize, but somehow understood. She read it aloud. "Elion." Her entire body went cold. That was me?" The librarian nodded. "Elion was born with a mark that does not exist in the human world. A mark older than mankind." Ellie felt dizzy. "What mark?" The librarian reached out with its long, skeletal fingers. "The heart." Ellie stumbled backward, shaking her head. No, that's impossible. I was just a normal." The librarian's voice cut her off sharply. "You were never normal." Lightning flashed again, not from above, but from Ellie's chest. She looked down. Her chest glowed faintly through her clothing, a pulsing, circular light. The librarian bowed its head. "The heart is awakening." Chapter 10. Edwin Walks Between Worlds. While Ellie confronted her forgotten identity, Edwin Marlowe was stumbling through the impossible. He emerged from the tier in reality and found himself inside a corridor not built for humans. The walls were breathing, slowly, rhythmically. They expanded and contracted like lungs. But the walls weren't made of flesh or stone. They were made of paper. Thousands, no, millions of thin sheets layered together, each inscribed with runes that rearranged themselves as he walked. Edwin muttered, This isn't the archive. This is something else." He clutched his talisman tighter. He knew where he was, the place the prophets feared, the place forbidden even in legend, the passage between forgotten things, a place outside of time, outside of cause and effect, where the prophecy wrote and rewrote everything. He walked forward. The corridor stretched infinitely, each step echoing like footsteps down a cathedral made of whispers. Suddenly, a voice called out behind him, a voice he had hoped never to hear again. "Edwin." Edwin froze. His blood ran cold. He turned slowly. A woman stood there, young, radiant, smiling softly, though she had been dead for 41 years. Edwin whispered, "Clara." Her form shimmered faintly. "You shouldn't be here, love." Edwin trembled. "You died before the first awakening. You can't be." Clara raised a finger to his lips. "This place keeps what the world forgets. Even me." Edwin staggered backward. But why are you here?" Clara's smile faded. "Because you cannot save the girl." Edwin felt like a dagger had been shoved into his chest. No, I won't fail her too. Not again." Clara shook her head. "The heart takes. It does not give." Edwin's voice cracked. "She's just a child." Clara stepped toward him, her form flickering like candlelight. "And you are just a man." Edwin looked at her, tears falling. "Clara, please, help me." For a moment, her expression softened. She whispered, "Follow her name." Edwin blinked. What name?" Clara seemed to fade. Her voice floated away like smoke. "Elion." Edwin froze. That name. But Clara was gone. The corridor collapsed inward. A golden portal tore open. Edwin stepped through it without hesitation. Chapter 11. The Heart Remembers. Back in the Chamber of Lost Names, Elion stood shaking as the truth pulsed in her hands. The book's pages glowed with golden fire. The heart mark on her chest glowed brighter. She whispered, Elion. Who was she? Who was I? The librarian extended a hand. You were the one the prophecy feared. The only human born with the ability to rewrite a prophecy. Ellie's breath stopped. Rewrite the prophecy. The librarian nodded. The Book of Forgotten Dawn wrote fate. You were born with the power to erase it. Ellie felt the world spinning. That's impossible. The librarian leaned close. The prophecy does not fear warriors. It fears editors. The ground trembled. The names above them flickered wildly. Ellie cried out, What's happening? The librarian recoiled. The heart is remembering too fast. Golden cracks spread across the void. The walls of the chamber shook violently. Ellie clutched her chest as pain seared through her. The heart beat faster. Boom, boom, boom. The librarian shouted, You must stop it. Ellie screamed, I don't know how. The librarian reached for her. Close the book. Too late. The sigil burst open behind Ellie. A voice, deep, molten, ancient, echoed through the chamber. A voice that should never wake. A voice older than language, older than the world. The librarian collapsed to its knees. He speaks. The name echoed again. Elion. Ellie felt hands massive, unseen, cosmic grasp her soul. The heart blazed like a sun. The sigil widened, forming a doorway of pure golden fire. The Forgotten One was awakening, and it remembered her. Chapter 12. Edwin arrives too late. Edwin stumbled out of the portal and into the chamber, and froze in horror. Ellie, Elion, hovered in the air, engulfed in golden chains. The sigil behind her spun like a burning wheel. The librarian was bowing, trembling. Edwin shouted, Ellie! She didn't hear him. She couldn't hear anything. The Forgotten One's voice wrapped around her like a noose. Edwin ran toward her. A blast of force threw him back into a pillar. He coughed blood. But he stood, old, weak, breaking. But he stood. He screamed, Elion, listen to me. For a heartbeat, just one, her eyes met his. Edwin whispered, You are not a prophecy, you are a person. Her eyes widened. The golden chains cracked. The sigil flickered. The voice of the Forgotten One thundered, DONOTDISOBEYME. Edwin screamed, Fight it! Ellie screamed. The chamber ruptured, and the heart made its second pulse. Chapter 13. The Second Pulse. The moment the heart inside Elion released its second pulse, the entire chamber of lost names shattered like glass. Golden cracks spread through the void. Names, millions of them, rained down like falling stars. The air became thick, trembling, alive. Edwin shielded his face as shards of glowing script sliced past him. The librarian screamed, a sound not meant for human ears, as its cloak disintegrated into black ash. Elion hung suspended in the center of the chaos, her body arched backward, hair floating upward in a halo, eyes rolled into white light. Golden chains wrapped around her chest like ribs of a celestial beast. The Forgotten One's voice thundered again. Alien, I remember you. Another crack in the void tore open, wider, deeper, spilling an ocean of molten gold into the chamber. Edwin forced himself forward. He shouted, but his voice was devoured by the roar of cosmic wind. Only when he reached her and grabbed her wrist did she gasp, and the world stopped. Just like that. Silence. Every falling name froze midair. The golden cracks stopped expanding. Even the chains around her chest flickered, uncertain. Elion's eyes focused weakly on Edwin. What's happening? Edwin's voice trembled. You're resisting it. Her breath hitched. I can't. It's everywhere. Inside me. In my bones. Edwin squeezed her hand harder. You are not a vessel. You are not a sacrifice. You are Eon. Remember that. Her body convulsed. The Forgotten One boomed. Do not speak the name I gave her. Edwin glared at the golden void. She is not yours. Elion screamed, her body arching in pain. The second pulse wasn't over. The chamber trembled again. Gold poured over the floor like liquid fire. But Elion wasn't afraid. Not fully. Something inside her, the heart, was awakening, and it didn't fear the Forgotten One. Chapter 14. The Name That Breaks Rituals. The golden chains around Elion's chest tightened. Her ribs groaned. Her breath vanished. The librarian, half ash, half shadow, forced itself upward and croaked. She mustn't speak her true name. Not now. Not during the second pulse. Edwin blinked. What? Why? The librarian's voice was ragged, because the heart remembers her through that name. Alien's body jerked violently, the chains glowing bright white now instead of gold. The librarian rasped, "If she says Elion with her own mouth, the prophecy will accelerate." Ellie gasped. What? What happens if it accelerates? The librarian's hood turned toward her. The Forgotten One will wake entire. The chamber's light dimmed. Elion felt her heart skip a beat. Edwin whispered, "Don't speak. Whatever happens, don't say that name." Elion shook, tears streaking down her face. I don't want to die." Edwin pulled her down from the golden suspension, but the chains resisted. He gritted his teeth. "Then fight it." She screamed. Golden light burst out of her chest. Or Chapter 15. The first memory. Something shifted. The light pouring from Elion solidified into a scene, a memory projected into the chamber like a vision. Edwin gasped. Elion recognized it. A room. A stone cradle. A woman with trembling hands singing an ancient lullaby. Her voice soft, haunted. A child, newborn, glowing faintly with a golden mark. Elion whispered, "That's," Edwin whispered, "Oh God." Because standing beside the cradle was a figure cloaked in shadow, its face a void, its fingers long, skeletal, the Forgotten One. It leaned over the newborn child and whispered a name, Elion. The woman screamed and shielded the baby. The shadow creature lifted a hand, and reality twisted around it like melted wax. Edwin trembled. "It named you. Prophecy never names a child. It only takes names away." The chains around Elion pulsed harder. Elion held her chest. Why? Why did it name me? The librarian crawled forward, whispering, "Because you were its undoing. You were born with a mind the prophecy could not erase." Elion whispered, "So it tried to claim me instead." The librarian nodded. "It tried, but the mark inside you, the heart, rejected it." Another flash, another memory. Elion, aged 5, standing in a field of burnt grass, her eyes glowing gold. Villagers surrounding her in fear, her mother screaming for help. Elion crying, not understanding why the world around her was shaking. The sky cracking above her, the first sign. Elion whispered, "I caused that?" Edwin shook his head violently. "No, the prophecy reacted to you, because you are the only thing that can alter it." Elion pressed a hand to her head. "Alter fate?" The librarian hissed sharply. "Do not think it. Do not desire it. The prophecy will hear you." But she had already thought it. The chamber shook again. The golden cracks widened. Voices, thousands of them, whispered from beneath the floor. "Let it rewrite. Let it rewrite. Let it rewrite." The Forgotten One roared, "Stop her thought." Elion screamed as a third chain formed across her chest. Chapter 16. Edwin breaks the law. Edwin staggered toward her, his body failing, lungs burning, bones aching. He wasn't young, he wasn't strong, and he had no powers, but he had something the prophecy couldn't predict: defiance. He whispered an ancient phrase, a forbidden one he swore never to use again, a phrase that summoned fire into his hand. A mark glowed briefly on his wrist, a brand from decades ago, a sacrifice he had survived but never escaped. Elion gasped, "Edwin, what are you doing?" Edwin shouted, "Something stupid." He slammed his marked hand against the golden chain. A blast erupted, bright, blinding, violent. The chain cracked. The chamber called out in warning, voices screaming. The librarian recoiled. "You fool! You broke a prophecy bond," Edwin roared, "and I'll break another." He struck again. The second chain shattered. The golden void howled. The Forgotten One thundered. "You dare!" Edwin shouted back. "I dare everything. You can have me, but you will not have her." Elion felt her body collapse forward, free of the chains. Her chest burned, her heart pounded. Her true name whispered through the chamber. She whispered, "Edwin." He smiled weakly. "You're free now." Elion began to sob. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Edwin wiped the blood from his mouth. "Don't be. Just don't say that name out loud." The ground erupted. A gigantic golden hand, veins of fire running through it, burst from the sigil. The Forgotten One was coming through. It thundered, "Elion, come to me." The world trembled. Elion covered her ears, screaming. Edwin grabbed her shoulders. "Focus on your human name," she cried. "Ellie. I'm Ellie." The Forgotten One roared, "No." Ellie sobbed harder. "I'm Ellie. I'm Ellie Hayes." The sigil dimmed. The hand hesitated. Edwin whispered, Good girl. Hold on." A second hand emerged. Edwin's eyes widened. "Oh no. Oh no, no, no." The Forgotten One wasn't just awakening. It was crossing. Elion screamed. Edwin pulled her backward, but the golden hand grabbed his leg. Edwin cried out in agony. Alien screamed, "Let him go." The Forgotten One whispered, "Silence, child of mine." Alien's blood boiled, her heart ignited. Golden fire spiraled outward, not from fear, but from rage. Chapter 17. The future opens its eyes. Elion stood up. Not Ellie, not the shell. Elion. Her hair lifted into the air like strands of molten gold. Her eyes turned as bright as twin suns. She walked toward the sigil. The chamber trembled. The librarian collapsed in terror. Edwin shouted, "Elion, don't." But she wasn't listening. The Forgotten One's voice thundered, "Obey me." Elion screamed back, "I am not yours." The darkest miracle of the prophecy occurred. The sigil split open wider, and Elion reached toward it. Her hand, glowing, trembling, defiant, touched the border of the sigil. Golden lightning surged through the chamber. The Forgotten One shrieked, not in rage, in fear. Edwin gasped, She's changing the sigil. She's rewriting it." Alien whispered, "I choose my fate." The sigil broke. The giant golden hands recoiled. The Forgotten One screamed, "No." A final blast shook the world. Elion collapsed. Edwin caught her. The chamber dissolved into blinding white light, and both vanished. Chapter 18. The Price of Rewriting. The light faded slowly, not like a sunrise, but like embers dying in a collapsing star. Elion opened her eyes. She was lying on cold stone, her breath fogging in the air. Golden dust floated around her, dissolving like ash. Edwin knelt beside her, gasping, clutching his ribs. Elion whispered, "Edwin?" He smiled through pain. You broke the sigil, girl." She blinked. What does that mean?" Edwin's smile faded. "It means you rewrote the prophecy, but rewriting has a cost." Elion struggled to sit up. "What cost?" Edwin hesitated. Then he whispered, "Reality will take something from you or from someone near you." Elion's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" A voice echoed behind them. "He means me." Elion turned. The librarian stood there, but its form was failing. Half of its cloak was gone, revealing a body made of shifting script and black flame. The runes on its chest flickered and died like weak candles. Part of its face simply wasn't there anymore. Elion trembled. "What happened to you?" The librarian's hollow voice vibrated. "When you rewrote the sigil, you rewrote my existence." Its form cracked, a stream of golden dust falling from its chest. Edwin stepped forward. "Let me help." The librarian raised what remained of a hand. "Do not touch me, mortal. My time is severed." Alion's throat tightened. I never meant to hurt you." The librarian laughed, a low, echoing, fractured sound. "You did not hurt me. You unmade me." Alion's eyes filled with tears. "But why? Why did rewriting damage you?" The librarian's head tilted. "Because I served the old version of the prophecy. When you broke the sigil, the prophecy released me from its script." Edwin's eyes widened. "That means," the librarian nodded, "it means I am no longer written." Its body split further. Runes peeled away like dying leaves. Elion reached for it. No, please, don't disappear." The librarian's remaining eye glowed faintly gold. "Worry not for me. Worry for yourself." The chamber shook violently. Alien staggered. "What now?" The librarian whispered. "He awakens." Chapter 19. The First Physical Echo. The floor trembled. The air bent. Stone warped into liquid shadow. A deep vibration rippled through the chamber like a heartbeat from beneath the world. "Boom! Boom! Boom!" Elion gasped. That's the heart, isn't it?" Edwin shook his head. "No." The librarian pointed a dissolving hand at the far wall. "That is him." The wall cracked. Lines split outward like lightning. Elion backed away. No, I sealed the sigil. I broke his entry." The librarian hissed. "You delayed him." Nothing more. The crack widened. A bright gold eye appeared in the gap, blazing with ancient consciousness. Alien screamed and looked away. Edwin pulled her behind him. "Don't look at its full gaze. A mortal mind can't." Too late. Alien's vision blurred. The chamber twisted. She felt sick, like being pulled through a cosmic wind from a world that didn't want her. Whispers flooded her head. "Alien, you belong to me. Come to me. Finish what you began." Alien clutched her skull, shaking violently. Stop! Get out of my head." Edwin grabbed her shoulders. "Alien, look at me," she sobbed. "I can hear him. He's inside. I can feel him. He's pulling me." Edwin pressed his forehead to hers. "You're stronger than him. You broke his sigil. Remember that." Alien's breathing steadied, barely. The librarian raised its arm. "It is too late. He has found an anchor." Edwin turned sharply. "An anchor? To this world? The librarian nodded slowly. The Forgotten One cannot reach into the mortal world without a conduit, and it just found one. Alien trembled. Who did it anchor to? The librarian stared straight at Edwin. Edwin froze. Alien screamed. No, 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 no. The librarian's dissolving voice hissed. He touched him when he grabbed Edwin's leg. Alien backed away, shaking her head violently. No, he's human. He can't. Edwin bowed his head. Alien, it's okay. Alien grabbed his shirt. No, it's not okay. He'll use you. He'll break you. He'll wear you like a corpse. Edwin smiled sadly. Then we won't let him. The ground erupted. A golden hand burst out, but not enormous like before. Human-sized. Edwin-sized. Alien's heart shattered. He's trying to possess you, Edwin grimaced. I noticed. The librarian coughed golden ash. There is one way to stop it. Alien spun toward it. What way? The librarian's remaining eye dimmed. Break the anchor. Alien whispered. How? The librarian said nothing. Its body cracked fully, collapsing into a spiral of golden dust. The last words it ever spoke were, take his place or let him die. Elion's breath froze. Edwin looked at her gently. Elion. She shook her head violently. No, no, don't you dare. Edwin's voice softened. Let me go. She screamed. No. Chapter 20. The Choice. The golden hand seized Edwin's wrist. His body jerked violently as the Forgotten One's essence poured through him. Elion screamed and tried to pry the hand off, but it burned her skin. Edwin gasped, choking. His voice was warped, half human, half cosmic. Lion, I can't hold him. Elion sobbed uncontrollably. Please, I can't lose you. Edwin smiled through agony. I was never meant to survive this long anyway. Elion shook her head. I won't let him take you, I won't, Edwin whispered. Then run. Elion clutched his sleeve. No, stop saying that. Edwin looked at her with soft, aching eyes. You rewrote fate once. Rewrite it again. If not for you, for me. The golden cracks around the chamber roared open. The Forgotten One's voice filled every corner of reality. Give me my anchor. Edwin screamed. A guttural, burning sound. Alien fell to her knees. No, please, please, I'll do anything. The Forgotten One whispered into her blood. Anything. Alien sobbed. Yes, take me instead. Take me. Edwin shouted. Alien, no. But it was too late. The Forgotten One's golden hand released Edwin and wrapped around Alion's throat. Edwin screamed, No, Alien whispered as tears fell. I choose me. The Forgotten One pulled her upward. Edwin crawled toward them, begging, Alien, don't, please, don't. Her voice cracked. Edwin, it's okay. The Forgotten One's laughter echoed like thunder. The heart returns to its owner. Alien's body convulsed. Her mind split. Her soul burned. Everything went white. Hong trembled. Chapter 21. The Place Beyond Prophecy. Alion's eyes opened. She was floating in endless white. No time, no gravity, no body, no self. A whisper came from everywhere. Alien trembled. I am near home. The Forgotten One answered, You were born of me, made from my memory, forged to return what was taken. Alien felt herself dissolving. No, no, I reject you. The Forgotten One roared, You do not get to reject what you are. Alien screamed, but the sound was swallowed whole. Her form flickered, fragmented, unwound. Then something in her pulse shifted. A voice, not cosmic, not ancient, but human, echoed inside her heart. Edwin, Alien, remember you are Ellie. Remember who taught you your name. The White Realm cracked. The Forgotten One hissed. Stop, Alien whispered. My name is Ellie. The White Realm collapsed. The Forgotten One screamed. Elion opened her eyes, and everything exploded into darkness. Chapter 22. Waking in the Wrong World. Ellie, not quite Alien, not quite herself, woke to the sound of rain. Real rain. Not golden, not burning, not whispering. Just cold London rain tapping weakly against glass. Her eyes snapped open. She was lying on a bed, an actual bed, a cheap mattress, worn-out gray sheets, a crooked ceiling lamp. The room smelled like dust and old paper. In the corner, a radiator hissed softly, failing to warm the air. Ellie sat up, heart pounding. She knew this room, the peeling wallpaper, the small desk covered in books, the single window overlooking the narrow alley. This was my flat. Her voice sounded small, wrong in the stillness. She threw off the blanket and stumbled to her feet. Everything felt almost right, almost. Her textbooks were stacked where she left them. Her chipped mug sat beside cold coffee. Her coat hung on the back of the chair, but the air was too quiet. There was no traffic outside, no voices, no city hum, just rain. And then she saw it, the book. lying on her desk, closed, calm, as if nothing had happened. Ellie stared at it. Part of her wanted to scream, part of her wanted to pick it up and throw it out the window. Instead, she whispered, "What did you do?" The book didn't glow, didn't whisper, didn't move. For the first time since she'd seen it, it looked dead. Ellie reached out with shaking fingers and opened the window. Rain-tinted air drifted into the room. She looked down at the alley below. No people, no cars, no sound. Her reflection in the glass stared back at her. Same brown hair, same tired eyes, same tiny scar on her cheek. But she knew, deep in the hollow behind her ribs, something was missing. Or someone. Edwin. The name left her lips like a wound, and with it came a flood of memory. The chamber, the golden hands, the sigil breaking, Edwin screaming as the forgotten one tried to anchor to him. Her screaming she would take his place, the white void, the choice, the collapse. Ellie clutched the windowsill so hard her knuckles went white. "Where are you?" she whispered. No answer. The city outside looked like London, but it didn't feel like London, and that was what terrified her the most. Chapter 23. The City That Forgot. She dressed quickly, her hands moving on autopilot, hoodie, jeans, boots, coat, everything familiar. But when she stepped outside her building, she realized how deeply wrong the world was. London had always been noisy. Even late at night, there were taxis, drunk laughter, distant music, sirens sometimes, wind through the tight streets. Now, silence. Not absolute. There was still rain, her own breathing, the faint hum of electricity from street lamps, but no people, no footsteps, no voices, no cars moving in the distance. The city was lit, shops were visible, buses stood at stops, but everything was empty, like the world had simply stopped using itself. Ellie walked slowly down the pavement. "Hello?" she called. No one answered. Her voice bounced off brick, lonely and small. She pulled out her phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi, no missed calls. Her messages were there, but the timestamps were wrong. Some had dates that didn't exist. Others were blank. Her home screen flashed once. No service, outside coverage of written time. She stared. Then the words blinked and turned into the normal no service display. Her skin crawled. Outside, written time, she repeated under her breath. Was this what happened when you rewrote prophecy? You fell into a version of the world that no longer had a script? Chapter 24. The Watchmaker. She walked aimlessly until she found herself in front of Edwin's shop, the little antique bookstore on Fleet Street, the one with the fogged glass and the crooked "open" sign. The bell above the door didn't ring when she stepped inside. The lights were on, candles burned low on the counter. Books lay scattered as if someone had been going through them in a panic. But there was no one there. No Edwin, no customers. Ellie whispered, "Hello?" Only her voice replied. She moved behind the counter. Empty chair, an old mug of tea, cold as stone, a half-written note. If the second sign appears before dawn, burn this. The sentence ended there. Burn what? Ellie's eyes fell to the desk drawer, slightly ajar. Inside, wrapped in a cloth, was a pocket watch, a very old one. She had seen that clock before. The design, the engraved concentric circles of runes, the slender hands perpetually poised at IV and eyeing, exactly like the time wheel that had appeared in visions. Like the thing they placed the word I inside of. Shadow Prophet I. Her fingers trembled as she lifted it. The metal was warm. The watch clicked once when she touched it. On its back, a thin inscription glowed faintly. Edwin Marlowe, last keeper of the unfinished hour. Ellie swallowed hard. Last keeper. She pressed the release. The watch opened with a soft, sharp click. Instead of gears and springs, inside was ink. Liquid black ink, swirling in a perfect circle. Tiny letters floated within it, like stars trapped in dark water. She leaned closer. The letters drifted, forming words. She rewrote what could not be rewritten. The ink shifted again. The world she stands in now is a draft without an author. Ellie's throat tightened. A draft, the watch flashed. Another sentence formed. If she wants him back, she must write herself into what comes next. The ink stilled, then reverted to a shapeless, swirling black. Ellie snapped it shut. Write myself into what comes next, she repeated. She looked around the shop. It felt like Edwin had just stepped out for a moment, like he'd come back any second. Except she knew he wouldn't. Not unless... No. She didn't want to think it, didn't want to say it, didn't want to accept that to bring Edwin back, she might have to merge with the very thing that wanted to consume her, the forgotten one. Still, the watch felt warm in her hand, comforting, guiding, like Edwin had left a compass behind. She slipped it into her pocket, took a deep breath, and turned around to find someone standing in the doorway. Chapter 25. The half-made Ellie flinched. It wasn't a person. Not fully. The figure at the door looked like a man in outline, tall, wearing a coat, shoulders square, but its edges were blurry, like someone had sketched a human and forgotten to finish the details. Its face was entirely blank. Smooth skin, no features, like a mannequin left in front of a bonfire. Where eyes should have been, there were only faint impressions of darkness. The thing tilted its head. The motion reminded her of the pale men in the university courtyard. The half-maid. She stepped back. "I don't want to hurt you," she stammered, though even as she said it, she didn't know if she could hurt it. The half-maid raised a hand. Its fingers were long, smudged at the ends like wet charcoal. It pointed directly at the pocket watch in her coat. Its voice was like paper tearing slowly. "That does not belong in a world without script." Ellie swallowed. "So what? You're here to take it from me?" The creature tilted its head again. "We are here to erase the tools of the old version." Ellie clenched her jaw. "Well, too bad. I'm not done with it." The thing stepped forward, its movement glitching slightly, as if reality stuttered trying to keep it solid. Ellie's heart thundered. Her instinct screamed at her to run. But another part of her, the part that vaguely remembered sigils, chains, cosmic eyes, refused to be prey anymore. "Come any closer," she whispered, "and I'll rewrite more than a sigil." The half-maid stopped. Silence vibrated between them. Then, "You are the error." It took another step. Another figure appeared behind it, and another, and another. Within seconds, the street outside was full of them, half-formed people, standing motionless in the rain. Their blank faces all turned toward the shop. Ellie felt something ancient stirring beneath her skin. She whispered, "I am not an error." The watch in her pocket warmed. The heart inside her chest pulsed once. Golden light flickered briefly in her pupils. The half-maid closest to her twitched. Its form became less stable. Lines of script flickered across its skin, then vanished. "You are not written," it said. Ellie smirked bitterly. "Good." Then, softly but clearly, she added, "That means you can't predict what I'm about to do." She slammed the door. Chapter 26. The Circle That Shouldn't Be Drawn. Ellie ran to the back of the shop. It took only seconds for the half-maid to start pressing against the glass. They didn't attack violently. They simply pressed. Their blank faces and half-formed hands slowly pushed the material inward, as though reality itself were being erased molecule by molecule wherever they touched. The glass didn't crack. It unraveled. Ellie's mind raced. She needed protection, a barrier. She didn't know any spells, didn't know any rituals, but someone else had. Her eyes fell on the floor behind the counter, scuffed, stained, scratched by decades of chairs and shoes. But underneath all that, barely visible, symbols, circles, lines, angles, all carved faintly into the wood, protection marks. Edwin hadn't been just an old bookkeeper. He had done work here. Ellie grabbed a piece of chalk from the drawer. Her hands moved faster than her thoughts. A circle, inscribed with symbols that she'd never learned but somehow remembered. The chalk glowed faintly as she traced. Not from the chalk, from her. Her breath quickened. She didn't have time to be afraid of herself. The pressure on the glass intensified. The front window began to fuzz like a bad signal. Shapes of the half-maid pressed through the distortion, faces half inside, half outside. Ellie finished the circle, stepped inside, held the book in one hand, the watch in the other, and spoke words that flowed out of her as if she were reading from an invisible page. "I stand unwritten. I stand between. This space is mine. You do not have permission to enter." The chalk ignited in golden light. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a shockwave rippled outward from the circle. The world itself seemed to blink. The half-maid nearest the threshold staggered back, its form glitching violently. Those further away froze. The pressure on the glass stopped. Then every half-maid in sight turned their head in perfect unison, not toward Ellie, but toward the sky. Ellie's stomach sank. "Okay, that's bad." The air hummed. A sound like breath being drawn inward filled the street. Then she heard it, a distant, echoing, horrible sound. Laughter. Not human, not sane, something older than all fear. The Forgotten One had noticed. Horned. Chapter 27. The Prophecy Without Pages. The rain stopped. Every droplet froze midair, suspended like glass beads. The city lights dimmed. Not off, just turned down, as if the night itself was being adjusted by an unseen hand. The half-maids sank to their knees in the street, their blank faces turned upward. From far above, through a sky that looked less like clouds and more like old paper, script began to descend. Golden letters, sentences, fragments, torn phrases that never finished. They fell gently like snow, landing on streets, on buildings, on windows, on the shoulders of the half-maid. Wherever the letters touched, reality shimmered. Ellie watched in horror. This is the prophecy rewriting, isn't it? A voice answered from behind her. It is trying. Ellie spun. There, half-translucent, flickering in and out of being, stood Edwin, or some version of him. His body was made of faint script and faint light, as though he was being drawn by an impatient hand that kept changing its mind. Edwin, he smiled sadly. Not quite. She took a step closer. Are you dead? He chuckled once. I don't think I'm allowed something as simple as dead anymore. He looked around the shop. So, you survived? You broke the sigil. You got thrown into a draft reality. Ellie stared. You knew this could happen? Edwin pinched the bridge of his nose. I suspected. There are whispers among prophets about places between full versions of the world, half-expressed realities, blueprints, scrap pages. He met her eyes. That's where you are now, a page the universe hasn't decided to keep or throw away yet. Ellie looked at the frozen rain, the kneeling half-maid, the falling letters. And them? Edwin's expression darkened. Cleaners, agents of restructuring. They erase things that don't belong in the next version. He nodded toward the watch in her hand. That especially. Ellie tightened her grip around it. I'm not giving it up. He smiled faintly. I know. That's why you're still alive. She swallowed. How do I get out of here? How do I get you out of here? He shook his head slowly. That's the thing, Ellie. You can't leave a draft. You can only decide what it becomes. She frowned. I don't understand. He gestured toward the book and the watch. You are the only human ever born with the heart and the capacity to edit prophecy. This place is waiting for your decision. If you do nothing, the Forgotten One will finish rewriting this world into something it can use. He paused. If you make a move, you'll write something instead. Ellie whispered. So I can choose a new future? Edwin's eyes softened. Yes, but, he added quietly, it'll cost you. Cost me what? He met her gaze. Maps are easy to redraw. The cartographer's hand isn't, she exhaled shakily. And you? Did rewriting cost you this? She gestured helplessly at his flickering form. He smiled sadly. Oh, this? No, this is just what happens when you stand too close to the ink while it's still wet. Chapter 28. The Blind Spot. Outside, the half-maid stood again. The letters falling from the sky began to rearrange themselves on their skin, turning into new instructions. Some of the blank faces now had faint features, eyes, brows, mouths, as if someone had just started sketching humanity onto them. Edwin's voice grew urgent. Listen to me carefully, Ellie. The prophecy can see almost everything. It writes and rewrites routes, choices, outcomes, but there's something it can't see. Ellie whispered. What? He pointed directly at her chest. Anywhere you decide freely, anywhere you make a decision that isn't driven by fear, despair, resignation, or the will of something older than you. He smiled with a hint of pride. That is its blind spot. Ellie shook her head. That's how I broke the sigil, isn't it? Because I chose something it didn't predict? Edwin nodded. When you chose to say, I am Ellie, that wasn't written anywhere. Her eyes stung. So what do I choose now? He stepped closer. His form barely held together. That's the problem. I can't tell you. If I do, it's no longer purely your choice. She laughed once, bitterly. That's wonderfully useless, Edwin. He grinned. Prophets usually are. The shop shook. A crack formed in the ceiling. The letters from outside began to seep through the walls like smoke. Edwin flinched. Time's up, Ellie's heart raced. What happens if I hesitate? Edwin looked genuinely pained. Then this draft gets archived. Everything in it, including you, is shelved as unresolved. You won't die, strictly speaking. You'll just never happen. Her fingers tightened around the watch so hard she thought it might shatter. She looked at the book on the counter. Dead. Silent. Waiting. Then at Edwin. Barely there. She took a deep breath. Okay, she whispered. I'll make a choice. The watch warmed in her palm, as if the old man she used to know was silently squeezing her hand. Edwin whispered, "Whatever you choose, make sure you mean it." She closed her eyes. She thought of being hunted, of being used, of being named by something that wanted to own her. She thought of the librarian dissolving, of worlds cracked open like eggshells, of Edwin reaching for her through blinding golden storms, of the feeling of the heart awakening inside her. Ellie opened her eyes. "I don't want to run anymore," she said. Outside, the half-maid froze mid-step. The rain droplets trembled in the air. The golden letters slowly rotated, as if something in the script itself was waiting to hear her next words. Ellie stepped fully into the chalk circle, held up the watch in one hand, the book in the other. And with all the certainty she could gather, she spoke directly to the sky. "I will not be your vessel. I will be your author." The word echoed. Author. Edwin's eyes widened. "Ellie." The watch snapped open in her hand, its ink whirling. The book flew out of her other hand and opened midair. Pages flipped, blank, 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 and then stopped. A single empty spread, waiting. The falling letters from the sky spiraled into the shop, into the circle, into the air above the book. The half-maid outside collapsed as the writing tore itself out of them. Their bodies disintegrated into white dust. The suspended raindrops evaporated from existence. The city dimmed further until only the golden script glowed. The universe itself leaned in to watch. And Ellie Hayes, Elion, heart of the forgotten one, lifted her head and said, "This is my page now." Chapter 29. The moment the world held its breath. Everything stood still. The rain, the letters falling from the sky, the trembling light of London's street lamps, the half-maid collapsing into dust, even the frozen breath in Ellie's throat. Time had stopped. But not because the prophecy froze it. It froze because the universe was waiting, waiting for her. Ellie Hayes. Alien, author of The Unwritten Hour. Edwin's flickering form stood at the edge of the chalk circle, barely held together by fading script. He whispered, "Ellie, be careful." Ellie took a deep breath. The watch in her right hand glowed like a tiny collapsing star. The book in her left hovered in the air, pages blank and trembling. She whispered, "I'm done being written." And she stepped out of the circle. The ground cracked under her foot. A thin golden line traced outward from her heel, a new trajectory the prophecy did not recognize. The sky tore open. A circular rift, a terrible cosmic eye, blazed above the city. Lightning spiraled in perfect geometry. The Forgotten One's voice rumbled from the void. "Elion." Ellie didn't flinch. She whispered, "My name is Ellie Hayes." The world shuddered. Somewhere, 1,000 unwritten scripts burned simultaneously. "You shouldn't exist," the prophecy itself seemed to whisper. She raised the book. The blank pages rustled. The watch clicked. And Ellie said, "I'm giving myself a story." Chapter 30. The Forgotten One descends. The sky cracked wider. A colossal golden hand, veins pulsing with ancient ink, descended from the rift. It wasn't the same hand Ellie had seen in the chamber. No, this was its real form. The Forgotten One had no face, only tendrils of script twisting to mimic the shape of one. Its limbs were made of broken prophecy symbols, half melted and rearranging themselves every second. It was horrifying and beautiful and inevitable. Its voice tore through the city. "You cannot unwrite what was written before you existed." Ellie whispered, "Watch me." She tapped the watch. It opened in her palm. The black ink inside churned into a whirlpool. The floating letters rearranged into a single phrase: "The author defies only when she is true." The Forgotten One roared. A massive shockwave hurled cars through the air and shattered every window within a mile. Edwin's flickering form nearly disintegrated. He screamed, "Ellie, you have to end it now. It's crossing fully. If he enters the mortal script, there will be no rewriting." Ellie shouted back, "I know." She raised the watch. Lightning spun downward in spirals of white-hot ink. She opened the book. A blank page glowed like a doorway. The Forgotten One reached for her. "You belong to me." Ellie screamed, "No!" Her voice rang through the city, and the blank page exploded into golden fire. Chapter 31. The Page That Writes Back. The book slammed open, but instead of a prophecy emerging, a story began to write itself. Not for her, not about her, from her. Golden letters burst from her chest like a flood of ancient light she didn't know she carried. They spun around her in swirling constellations. Her voice echoed stronger. I write my own fate. The Forgotten One reached again. The golden vortex deflected it. Her new words burned across the page. The Forgotten One fails to claim me. A scream like collapsing galaxies shook the city. The godlike form recoiled, its limbs twisting out of shape. Edwin shouted, "Ellie, he's resisting. You have to write his limit." Ellie's hand trembled. "What limit?" Edwin pointed at the rift. "The prophecy wants to enter the world, so write a boundary." Ellie slammed her hand onto the page. Ink burst upward. She shouted, "The Forgotten One cannot cross into any world with a human author." The world rippled. The Forgotten One roared, "You will erase yourself." Ellie didn't hesitate. "I'd rather erase myself than belong to you." The rift stopped widening. The golden limbs began to distort. The lines of script making up its body flickered wildly like a dying star. The Forgotten One screamed, "This is not your page." Ellie stepped forward. "It is now." She placed her palm on the page and wrote the final sentence. The Forgotten One returns to nothingness. Chapter 32. Collapse. Everything detonated at once. Light, sound, ink. The city folded inward, then outward, then inside itself again. Golden storms ripped across the skyline. The rift shattered. The Forgotten One dissolved into a rain of broken symbols. The half-made screamed and vanished. Rain resumed falling normally. Reality stitched itself back together in a trembling wave of color and noise. Ellie collapsed to her knees. Her vision blurred. Blood dripped from her nose. Her heartbeat slowed. Edwin crawled toward her, barely holding shape. "Ellie, Ellie, stay with me." She looked up at him with a soft, sad smile. "It's okay," Edwin sobbed. "No, you rewrote too much. You're unraveling." Her skin flickered with golden script. She whispered, "It was worth it." Edwin held her face in trembling hands. "You saved the world, but you rewrote yourself out of it." Ellie nodded weakly. "That's the price for being the author." Her body shuddered. The book fell from her hand. The watch flickered. Edwin screamed, "Please, please don't go," not like her, his wife, Clara. Ellie smiled through tears. Tell the world, it's free now." Her body dissolved into golden light. Words drifted from her like feathers. Letters, sentences, a story unbinding itself. Edwin grabbed the falling ink and cried, "Ellie, Ellie, please, let me take your place. Let me," she whispered, "live for me." And then, she was gone. Chapter 33. After the last word, Edwin lay on the cracked pavement, clutching the watch, the book, and the remaining letters of Ellie's final moment. The city, alive again. People emerged from buildings, confused. Traffic resumed. Voices filled the air. The world didn't remember what had almost happened. No storm in the sky. No cosmic rift. No prophecy. Edwin whispered, "Thank you, Elion, Ellie." He opened the book. One sentence remained. "The author writes herself into the next dawn." Edwin gasped. "That means she's not gone. She's..." A single droplet of golden ink landed on the page, not from the sky, from above his head. He looked up, and for a heartbeat, just one, he saw a girl sitting on the rooftop across the street. Brown hair, soft eyes, golden light fading around her. She smiled. Edwin whispered, "Ellie." She whispered back, "Turn the page," and vanished.